when I'm getting to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. This is your first time tuning in. Welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Friday, everybody. I got a very special guest. I'm going to bring him up right away. I don't know if 30 minutes is going to be enough time, so we might go over a little bit. This gentleman is somebody who I've had the pleasure of getting to know here these past couple of years. He's built a multi-generational freight agency, like we're talking about right there. His kids and everybody work for him. It's such an amazing story. And most importantly, somebody whom I consider a friend out there. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Steve Burroughs to the show today. Again, Steve, it's been a while, but thank you so much for joining me here today.
Hey, Chris, it has been a minute, but thank you for having me on. I do appreciate that. And I mean, what an amazing show and an amazing host. And you know, I do consider you a friend, and I've enjoyed the relationship that we have developed. So thank you.
No, absolutely. It's, so let's just kind of dive in, or I guess pick up where we left off on everything. What's been one of those, obviously the market is the market at the end of the day. And there's so much talk out there about what's going to happen next. How do we better prepare? But I want to pull on your experience in the industry as a whole. What are some of those things that, although might be saying there's a market shift going on, but are consistent through every month that you've been in business, and what people should be actually looking towards?
Well, it's very tempting right now to go for the low-hanging fruit. Freight rates are all over the place, and we knew that. And I may touch on some things that it hurt people's feelings, and okay, your feelings are hurt. But we talked about back in October, November, how the market was going to change, and the non-domicile driver thing. I don't think anybody saw it coming as fast and hard as it did. Right. I think I heard a statistic the other day. In the Southeast, in a particular area around the Memphis area, there are 86 loads for every single truck available. And so, some of these guys, they're able to command whatever rate they want. And that's great, but it's also very short-sighted because, we're still going to be here in a year. Rates are starting to level off. And it was super tempting to go and just screw the shipper, but the shipper has this funny memory thing. They won't forget that. And I think that what we're seeing right now is the rates went super sky high, and now they're starting to pull back in level in most areas, not in every area, but in most areas we're starting to see a normalization. I always tell people that this trucking business is very cyclical. It will come back. It will normalize. And, we even saw we're seeing rates that are greater than post-COVID rates. Yeah. And that was an opportunity in COVID where a lot of shippers took it out on the truckers. And I tried to warn them. I'm like, truckers have a very long memory. They will remember this, and they'll get you. And they did. So I think that it's hard to predict what's going to happen, but I think you're going to see more of a normalization. I think that post-COVID, there were a lot of the non-domiciles and the non-citizens that were able to actually get grants and things to start their own trucking company. That didn't happen this time. So, everybody and their brother got into the business right after COVID because the rates were through the roof. Well, and that sent the rates through the floor. And I think now we've kind of enjoyed these more normal, but then even higher rates than what should be. And so here we are kind of coming back down to earth and coming back to a reality. And I think that if you intend on being in this game for more than a year, the best thing to do is remember who your customer is. The customer, as a broker, the customer is not your truck driver. Your customer is your shipper. And I always look out for my shipper. I take care of my driver. Our drivers are treated very, very well, but we take care of our shipper first. They're our priority.
So, you brought up about the leveling off of rates. And I think that to me is the most like overlooked thing that a lot of people do in a transitionary market or like a tight time out there with capacity tightens up is they're almost trying to take advantage of the situation. And again, I'm not here to tell anybody what's right or what's wrong, but one big thing we do on this show is we do a 3 times a week freight market report for vans, reefers, and flatbeds. DAT is our data partner out here now, Steve. And what we do is we teach people how to read a market, right? So it's like, it's very easy to point at, this is what's going on, everything's chaotic. But if you actually look at the 12-month cycle of most lanes out there, not every lane, and this is why I hate when everybody like harps on the national average, and they're like, oh, national average. That doesn't tell the entire story of every lane that's out there. More lanes have been stable these last 90 days from a pricing perspective than is even being reported out there. But then most importantly, if you scale back and look at June and July of 2025 compared to June and July of 2026, the seasonality is almost identical, right? The rates are higher, yes, but the seasonality is identical. And I think that is where a lot of the short-sightedness comes in and I think this is what makes the agency model and freight agents and, owning your own book of business in your business here different than your prototypical employee of an organization is like, we got to get profit 12 months out of the year, right? Like we can't have a bad month because like, if we don't perform, we don't eat. And we have to bring that isolation factor to our customers to be like, yeah, things are kind of crazy out there right now, but like, we'll be all right. We can hold firm at this rate because I saw the stabilization happen probably early June after the Memorial Day. Rates hit their peak at that time, and they've kind of stabilized.
Well, they have stabilized, and you're right. They did hit their peak, and we still have guys that every single day, every fifth phone call, they're taking shots for those astronomical rates, and we're like, are you even in business? I mean, really, how many loads are you running a week? I mean, you can't be running more than 1 or 2 because I can't imagine anybody paying those kind of rates for this kind of lane. And, and we'll have people, my favorite one is when they call in and they'll say, well, but I have an empty truck. And I'll say, so that justifies the absorbent rate that you're asking. Is that what you're saying? Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, every truck is empty when it goes to get loaded. Mm-hmm. So, that's not really a great selling point for you. In fact, it kind of shows how dumb you are. So,
Yeah, it's interesting, right? When you're seeing a lot of this stuff, but like one thing that I've tried to really apply here is like, the good and the bad of being involved in like the media and social media side of this industry that I am is you get exposed to a lot of really bad behaviors from the brokerage market, right? So it's almost like I look at it, and it's the same thing that I apply to like when I'm prospecting new shippers, Steve, is like, I'm only as good as their last interaction with somebody else who is providing the service that I'm trying to sell to them, right? And if they got burnt by a broker, they're going to think I'm just like that, right? Just like the drivers out there who are like, doing whatever, chances are they got burnt by another broker. But it's one of those things, man, where I look at it is we have such a unique opportunity where you do things a little bit different. And you've been doing this job a long time. You used to own trucks. You've been on the shipper side of things. Yeah. I think that at the end of the day, brokers fail to realize sometimes that like finding that sweet spot with drivers, like you're talking about, you take care of your drivers. You guys are probably working with the same trucking companies the majority of the time. And it's one of those things where it's like you bring that isolation factor down to your customers at that point, and that's how you've been able to grow. Do you think that that's one of those key areas of success that you've been able to grow year over year and build up your business?
Well, yeah, it is. And I mean, I always tell my customers, I'm not looking for a one-shot wonder. I'm not trying to make a mortgage payment on one load. By the same token, I'm not going to burn a driver. I'm not going to cheap pay a driver just because I can. And sometimes these guys will call in and they'll make these outrageous bids. And I'm like, are you sure about that? That's not quite. Well, yeah, and I'm like, that's not what the lane average is, and we need to be fair. And I mean, we're very fortunate because we have got drivers. I've got a driver, Chris, that's one of my best friends that I've never laid eyes on. He has been driving for me for 15 years, and I mean, we know each other's family names and everything. And finally, I'm going to go to watch a college football game with him sometime this fall.
Heck yeah!
And we talk every single day. And normally when I have a load for him, I don't even ask him. I just send it to him because I know when he's going to pick it up, what he needs, and where he's going to go next. So it's developing relationships with your shippers, with your customers, and with your drivers. And that's where we have been successful. There are some very large players on the market out there. And I mean, they have these big, if you've never seen the movie, The Boiler Room, that's what it reminds me of. It's just this room full of brokers and they're just these kids and they're trying to make it and they're making 100 phone calls. And I mean, I've got a guy on my team that came from one of those places. And he said that, the list would come out of available loads or available shippers at 4 a.m. And you had to claim it at 4 a.m., even though they didn't start work until 7 a.m. So they're at the office at 4 a.m., just all chomping at the bit to be the first with the mouse to click and grab this customer and start trying to work that customer. Well, if you do your job right, you don't have to do that because your customer is not out looking. Your customer relies on you. And I mean, even just this week, we went and Mary and I, my wife and my partner, we went and played in a charity golf tournament and we hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our shippers before we came home. And, it's the small things, going to see these people, left everybody hats, took muffins and things like that. And one of them is a very large shipper, and they have the supervisor likes to have what he calls a family lunch. Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to sponsor the lunch. I said, let me sponsor one of your lunches because I just want you to know it's not just we care about you as people. And in this day and age, I mean, I'm an old guy. I mean, I'm not one of these high techy social media guys. To me, it's still a handshake, and I'd much rather do business with a phone call than a lot of the agencies out there. They do all their business by email and whatnot, and that's great. But you don't hear the person. I won't do business by only email unless it's somebody that I exclusively know. And I think that no matter what, it's still a person-to-person interactive business. There's a lot of times that I'll say to Mary, it's just business, and she'll say, no, it's personal. And as usual, she's right. But,
I was going to say, how do you what advice would you give to people out there who, they're in the process of building their book of business. They're trying to build these relationships, Steve, and it is very challenging for a lot of people to separate that, hey, it's business and personal and keeping that blend. But, what piece of advice would you give to somebody who maybe they're struggling to onboard business right now and they don't know what to do differently than what they're doing?
Well, I think that you pick an industry, you find your niche, and I'll speak to you now from sitting on that side of the fence because I mean I have been the guy that was in charge of shipping. I had 57,000 loads a year that I used to ship from a steel company. I was the corporate transportation director, and so you have all these people that are just constantly calling you. If I'm not worth a visit or an email asking for a visit, then I'm probably not. You probably don't want to do business with me, because if you're just dialing for dollars, I'm not your guy. I always like if you wanted my business so much, respect me enough to come and see me, but let me know that you're coming to see me. So I would say find your niche, find your area, and go see these people. That's the best thing. And you need to lay eyes on these shippers, and they need to lay eyes on you. They want to know what they're buying. Because for me, to develop just a phone relationship with a broker or with a trucking company, I mean, and I don't need, you didn't need to bring me gifts. You didn't need to take me to lunch. You didn't need to do all these things, but you needed to show me the respect. Show me that you have cared to learn about my business, about my company, about what we do, our shipping. You have to have a knowledge, and you have to do some research to get that knowledge. And I do believe in picking up the phone and dialing for dollars, but you're not dialing for loads. You're dialing for, you know, a relationship. You're dialing for some knowledge. You're dialing for, hey, you know, I'm interested in working with you, but I need to learn about you first.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always something that impressed me. And that's what I try to do with people. If I call them, I'm not asking for their loads right out of the gates because they don't know who I am. I want to learn about their business. I want to learn about them. I want to know what I need to know to earn their business.
Is that one of the things that you think most sales reps, and it's not even like a freight thing, do you think that that's what most sales reps fail at is they look at a prospect as commission only? They don't look at like, you know, because like one thing I've really tried to do, especially now that I'm, you know, self-employed is, you know, could I actually add value to that organization out there? Am I, you know, because like if they are good right now, great, right? Like I hope that they are. But it's more of like the time. If I am going to reach out to somebody, I am going to have done my research. I am going to be able to ask them actual qualifying questions that come along with it because, you know, nobody owes you anything. And I think most sales reps think because we have a pulse, we're entitled to everybody's time that we call, and they should be so lucky that we called them that they should just give us all their business.
No, I agree with that. And there is a certain sense of entitlement, you know, especially among the younger generation now. Some of them, not all, let me qualify that. Some of them, not all. They think, hey, because I've shown up, because I've followed you on social media or Instagram or whatever they call it, because I have followed you, you should at least talk to me, you know? And I just don't get that. I don't understand that. You know, ask me about my kids, ask me about my family, ask me about my wife, learn about me and learn about my needs. And if you can accomplish that and be respectful of my position, you know, I have a unique perspective on things because I have owned trucks. I've got a CDL, driven trucks. I am a broker. I've been a shipper. You know, I've been the guy that has done all these things. I've kind of tell people I've sat on every side of the fence. But if you don't know my business and you don't care to know me, you probably won't get my business. And so that's one of the things. And it's just very simple things. It's, you know, we are some of very, very, very few brokers, in my opinion, that actually call on their customers. So many brokers want your business, but they don't want to spend the time or sacrifice a few days of commission to come and see somebody. You know, I go after, and right now we're fortunate, but we've worked hard for it. I'm in a position where, you know, I'll send smaller shippers to other people and say, hey, here's a hot lead, go work on this. They don't fit my wheelhouse. I would not do them service. But as a broker, I also tell my customers, I'm like, listen, I've been in this business since I was 14 years old. I'm not saying I know everything, but I know a lot. If you need something, if you have a question, call me. I'll answer your question. I'll help you. Even if it doesn't benefit me, even if you're calling to gut check my competitor, I'll help you because I'm in it for the long haul. I'm not in it for the mortgage payment. And so, and I do that. I mean, if they call and they have a question, I'll answer the question. But you know, Chris, I also do that for other agents as well. I mean, even weekend before last, I had a friend of mine who's an agent, doesn't typically flatbed very much, but had a flatbed semi-emergency, didn't know what to do, called me on the phone on a Saturday and said, or texted me and says, can you talk? I need help. I'm like, sure. And he called and he said, I got this issue. I had an answer in 3 seconds. And he's like, oh, why didn't I think of that? I'm like, because you're not a flatbedder. Okay. If I have a van question or a reefer question, I'm calling you. And it's just that availability. It's just, you know, it's not all about dollars and cents. It's about developing these relationships. I mean, just like you and I had some Arizona loads and I called you. I'm like, listen, you got anybody coming out here? I can back call them. And, you know, because I know that you ship out of Arizona a lot. So it's just developing relationships, not only with drivers, but with other agents and with shippers alike.
How do you train that? Right? Like, because, you know, you'd mentioned, I know this, but for the listeners out there, you know, your wife is your partner in this, your children work for you, all of that. How do you ensure that mindset gets transferred down to that next generation?
they have to hear it from you. They have to see it from you. We don't sit in individual offices. I mean, our offices are kind of all over the country, but we have Zoom on every morning, all day long, from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. at night. Our entire team is on Zoom, and we can see and we can hear. They hear us talking. We hear them talking. If they do something that we're like, well, you did a great job, but try this. You could have said something a little bit differently. Try that. And then you have to be open for their response, because sometimes you may say something. They're like, hey, at work, they call me Steve, not Dad, but they'll say, hey, Steve, you said this, but how about saying that? Because I know this guy and he'll receive that better. And you have to be open to that criticism. And we are. I wouldn't say it's something that we teach. It's something that we exhibit. How about that?
No, I get it. I love that. And, I think because it's like when you hear a lot out there, don't do business with family, don't do business with your friends and stuff like that. And, you hear so many arguments on both sides, and there's a lot of validity out there.
Most certainly.
What was the main driving force? Was this just like a conversation between you and your wife that you're like, hey, we want to build a family business together? Like, how did that come about? Right. Because I think, again, naturally, most people, when they do go into business, the first people they want to do it with is somebody they do know and trust. How did you guys come to that? But then most importantly, you had mentioned at work, they call you Steve. How did you set that parameter? Like, hey, when we're at work, we're at work.
Well, I think you said it right away. I think we said it during their training phase with every kid that came to work for us. I would always make sure I told them, I'm like, listen, when we're at work, we're at work. Yes, you're my child. Yes, I'm your father. This is all true. But there is a respect as a coworker, because, I never wanted to come across as a kitchen table broker. Nothing wrong with a kitchen table broker. I have a lot of friends that sit at their kitchen tables and they broker, and that's fantastic. We have offices all over the country, even one in Germany, that we all work together via Zoom every single day. But we set the ground rules right from the beginning, and we didn't just bring everybody in one at a time. Actually, we kind of backed into being a family-only business. Yeah. Mary and I were working. We were busy. We were too busy. Busy to the point we were losing business. And our oldest child, our daughter, Emily, she kind of came to a place in her career. She was a nurse. She's an RN. And she's kind of like, this is not satisfying anymore. I'm having to work nights away from my child, away from my husband, yada, yada. We had a need. And we're like, well, hey, why don't you come work for us? We're like, wow, that worked out pretty well. So she was kind of the guinea pig.
Yeah.
Then our son, Sean, came along not long after that. And then that was fine for about a year or two. And then we brought our daughter-in-law in, and that's just kind of trickled in one by one by one. That being said, we do make them go out and get their nose bloodied a little bit before they come back to work for us. We want them to know what it's like to not work for a family business, to a place where people don't have your back and don't care about you. And then we also, the people that are the kids that work for us as dispatchers, they're commission only. They are, and I always tell them, they say, hey, can I take Monday, Wednesday, Friday off, or Monday, whatever, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Can I go on vacation? Sure. But the rule at our place is if you don't hunt, you don't eat. And so, if you're looking to leave and still maintain that income, that's not happening. So you don't have to work today if you don't want to, but you're also not going to make any money. I'll book the loads for you. Yeah. I'll make the money.
As you're building this out, what are some of those, like, how do you handle challenging conversations? Like when you do need to be Steve, the boss in this situation, how do you handle that? Because again, I think that's a natural thing without a lot of people out there who they might work with family. They might be thinking about working with family or best friends or something like that. But that challenging conversation needs to be had. How do you separate that in that moment?
It has to be a conversation, a situation with respect. And I tell them, and I take this tact myself, you wouldn't get away with something like that in a regular job. You couldn't speak to your supervisor, and your supervisor couldn't speak to you in a certain way at a normal job. And just because we're family doesn't mean that we can get away with that. So, we respect them, and we, expect and hope for that respect to come back. And so I think that that's part of the ground rules is when you get started, understand when we're at the dinner table, we're family. When we're at the desk, we're boss employee, and there are certain expectations, and we set those expectations early. You can't just decide on the fly what the expectations are. You have to lay the ground rules down early, and we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I again, it's all very, very valid points, and it's one of those situations where I only want to work with people that like I inherently trust, right? Like I want to have that relationship where it's like, hey, when we're inside these four walls, we're here to work, right? Like I don't want to do like we love each other, we're great outside of work, but when we're here to work. We need to win. We need to make this happen. Do you think that people go in to these relationships, and it might even just be like a standard business partnership with somebody who, was a friend of yours, Steve, they don't set expectations right away, and that is what causes strife or disagreements out there?
Well, they go in with the hope for. We hope this is going to work. We hope this is going to happen. We hope. And that's the downside of the freight brokerage business. I mean, so many people call me and they say, hey, I'm thinking about starting a freight brokerage. What advice do you have? And I say, don't.
Yeah.
Don't start a freight brokerage business, because if you don't already have a book of business, or if you don't have somewhere to go that has a book of business, the odds of you succeeding are almost none.
Yeah.
And especially if you're starting fresh in the industry, you don't know anything about it. That has been the strength of our kids coming to work for us. And we had the book of business already. Our kids grew up in the trucking business. They understood, and we do have a non-blood related employee right now. And he's been with us for a few years. I mean, he worked part-time for us in college. And when he graduated from college, he became a full-blown dispatcher. But he is also one of my son's best friends. And he's practically grown up in this house. Mm-hmm. I mean, I trust him as much as I do my kids. Mm-hmm. And you and I have had this conversation before, and that's the reason we kind of went down the family-only road for this. Well, this young man works for me now. He's the first non-family member I've ever had. Was the lady about 15 years ago told us a story about building up her little kitchen table book of business to almost six figures, and taught her nephew the business so she could go on vacation. And she went to Europe for 2 weeks and came back from Europe. Nephew was gone, computer was gone, business was gone, and she had to start completely over. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, what kind of nephew relationship did you really have? Was he really that close? Well, your own kids, that you're not going to hurt them. They're not going to hurt you. And before we're actually talking about bringing someone else on right now. And those are some long, hard discussions, because the rest of my kids are too young. They're still in school. And the 5-year-old is not quite ready to come to work yet. Although she has a little desk in our office, and she'll answer the phone and say, "Dispatch Laney." But, it's a hard thing, because, in a big agency, which we are a big agency, I guess, when somebody comes to work, I mean, they got to slug it out at first. They got to work hard, and they got to earn their keep. But I mean, you're kind of, I don't want to sound like it's going to sound, Chris, but you're kind of handing them the keys to the kingdom, because, in an agency our size, if you get the opportunity to come, you're going to do okay. And that's kind of where we are very careful, even about our kids. Well, you can come, just because you grow up in it, don't mean you can do it. Yeah. And we've got some kids that don't work for us that, they probably wouldn't do well, because they just don't have the temperament for it. And the ones we do right now are very good, but the ones that don't, I mean, their spouse works for us. So,
Yeah. You brought up some good points there. And it's especially when it was like, hey, I want to become a broker. What should I do? And you said, don't start. I don't know if enough people can actually comprehend how much work it takes to get any business, this isn't even a trucking thing, any business off the ground to profitability, right? Like the data doesn't lie. Like the failure rate of business out there is very, very well documented. And especially if you don't have any experience in the industry to want to go out there and do it. And, like we started from scratch in 2023, January of 2023 is when we started. And it has been way harder than I thought it was ever going to be, even with all the experience that I have, because you can, even with all the experience, you still have market conditions to worry about. And if capacity is good and people are good, like the door's not going to be open. Like it takes a lot of work. It takes so much effort to get something off the ground. And I would just, and that's why it's like with the content that I create, I focus on the fundamentals. I focus on the reality of what people are going to experience, because like, I'm never going to tell anybody don't chase your dreams, but I am going to make sure they know everything I can possibly tell them about what they're probably going to go through before they make that decision. Because I think if you were fully aware of everything you were going to need to go through to build something on your own, I don't know if even the people who start would eventually start their own thing. I think they would probably maybe go look at a different career. And I think that people need to be aware of that, right? Like if you're going to do it. But you need to understand that it is going to be literally the hardest thing you've ever done. And I know, I've been in this industry my whole life, Steve. I know a lot about this industry. I don't know everything. I know a lot about this industry. And guess what? That doesn't earn me a seat at anybody's table to move their freight. I am just another outreach at that moment. And you need to be prepared for that. And that's probably been the hardest part for me from like a competitor standpoint is like, when I'm reaching out to these prospects, I'm like, I fucking know I'm better than your current network. Like I know I am, because I know I want it more than these people do. Not, like not discrediting anybody or cutting down anybody's skill set, but like, I know what I bring to the table. Still doesn't matter, right? Like I still have to work my way up. I still have to be noticed. I still have to go through all of that. And if I wasn't mentally prepared for that with the experience I had of starting this media stuff from scratch, I don't know if I would have continued down that road.
It is a tough road. And, it's interesting that you use that seat at the table, because I use that a lot. If somebody, and we realize that when we bring someone on, we're giving them a seat at the table. And that doesn't mean that they're going to sit at the head of the table. And that doesn't mean that they're going to get their roast beef first, but they're going to get some roast beef. Yeah. And we want them to earn their way to the head of the table. I mean, we want everybody to succeed. And we, if there's any worry that we have, it's about, hey, making sure that this person is making the right money, making sure they're making enough money, making sure that this lifestyle that they want is supported, their needs are being met. And we do everything we can to provide that. Like I said, our kids are not on salary. They're all, anybody that comes to work for me is 100% commission. And just because you show up to the game doesn't mean you're going to get in. You got to earn your way in. But we try to give you every opportunity that you can to succeed. But yeah, people see us and they say, oh, well, playing another charity golf tournament. Dude, do you know how hard that work is? Yeah. It's hard work, and they don't see the fact that, I'll miss 3 holes sometimes because I'm on the phone handling a situation. I mean, Mary and I played in a charity golf tournament for one of our big shippers Monday, and she's in the golf cart with her laptop, using my phone as a hotspot. And it's that commitment level that we have. And back to the family thing, a lot of spouses can't work together because, I mean, you're in their face 24/7, and she's in your face 24/7. It just works for us. We have our expectations. We've got the rules set. There are times we talk about work. There are times that work is off the table. And don't care how many phone calls come in, neither of us are allowed to answer the phone. Those are the rules that we've set. But it is a tough industry, but if you do it right and you work hard, it can be a very satisfying and fruitful industry. But it takes the right person. It takes getting on the right team. It takes, getting in with, and I don't want it to sound like it's going to sound again, but it takes getting in with someone like us that, we've got a pretty big table and a lot of seats at the table, and we like serving big dishes. And so I think that, we have had opportunities where people wanted to sit down at the table, but they wanted to sit down at the head of the table first.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, you're just lucky to have the plate,
Yeah.
you know? And so, and those people show themselves really quickly. And when they have shown that side, I'm done. I'm moving on. I don't have time to play this game.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we even have another SPI agent right now that's working with us that came to us and was referred to us. And I'm like, okay, well, here's a segment of business that I can't handle right now. You go take a shot at it. I mean, he moved his first load yesterday. So, you know, he's got a seat at the table. But it's just, he's worked his rear end off, and he's made a commitment monetarily. He came down here to Florida, spent 4 days with us, learning, seeing the system, seeing the process, learning who we were. We learned who he was. We're like, okay, let's make this agreement. Let's get going. Mm-hmm. And so I love giving people opportunities like that. I can't marry. There's only so much Mary and I can do by ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I love having the team around me that I have. I love that they're my kids. I love working with my kids every single day. You know, I get to see my grandkids run in and out of the screen sometimes in their offices. Even though they're spread all over the country and all over the world, I just love it. Yeah. So it's highly lucrative business, but you got to do business right. You can't get in it, you know, hoping for a short-term commitment and a short-term gain and then pop out. That's just not the way it works. And you're right. We have created a multi-generational business. One day, Mary and I will retire, and you know the hope and the expectation is that our kids will take over the business in whatever form or fashion that looks like, mm-hmm. and that our fruits will continue on and support them and eventually our grandchildren. And you know, I hope it'll go for a long time. And you know, as far as we go, I mean, I know SPI is a supporter of the show, a sponsor of the show. They're, of course, you know, who I'm an agent for, and you as well. You know, I get phone calls, I would say not every day, but probably once a week from other outside companies wanting us to come and look at their model. And I'm like, just no thanks. Yeah. Just, you know, appreciate it. It's flattering, but no, thank you.
Same, you know, in a lot of, you know, I've been presented some, you know, interesting things, but like when it comes down to the relationship I have with SPI, I tell everybody this: as long as I'm an agent at SPI Logistics. And I don't care what the upside is for something else, because what most people don't understand is SPI supported me when nobody supported me. And that can't be bought. Like, I do not care. That cannot be bought. They came in at a time in my business with the media side of things where they were like all on board, but most importantly, they actually encouraged me to be me. There's never been a, hey, let's do, no, man. It's like, Chris, do you. They've supported me in so many ways that it just doesn't matter. Like and I think that my perspective on this is different than some, because, you know, again, when you start something from scratch and you got nothing coming in and you're adding up the numbers, Steve, and you're like, I think I can make this work for like X amount more time if this doesn't happen. And then somebody like SPI comes in and like, hey man, we love what you do. We want to support you. We're going to sign this contract with you. And you're like, holy shit, it's here. Like, I'm good. I got another breath of fresh air. I can make this dream last a little bit longer. That's what nobody else can replace for me personally.
Well, you're right. And interest, as you're saying this, and as we've had an interesting story to relate, you know, probably, I don't know, 15 years ago, we were with a different company, and we went down to Dallas to visit one of the vice presidents. And he was just a small little regional vice president. So not a really big deal. But he's driving us around his neighborhood there in Dallas. And he said, see that house right there? That's an agent for a different company. And he said, he's a $7 million agent. And we're like, at that time, we're like little $2 million agents. And we're like, wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. And our big thing was, how do we get there? And, you know, we used to be the people that, you know, that we'd go to these conferences. And I mean, yeah, they knew who we were because they would come up to you and they say, hey, look down at your name tags. Steve, how are you? Yeah. And, we worked hard and we had our goals in mind and we knew what we wanted to achieve and we reinvested into our own business. We've got our own programmer that handles a lot of things for us, and we tell him what we need and he actually we have two programmers. And, when we came to SPI, they took the handcuffs off on a lot of things. And, we went almost right away from 20 to 27 million, I think. And we've been with the company for 6 years. And, and so we went from not even being known, other than just by your regional guy to yesterday I had a FaceTime conference with the CEO of the company. We're friends and we're working on several things together. And it's about setting your goals and about your expectations and what do you want to accomplish. Some people, Chris, and this, and some people say, they never want to be more than just a one-person office. Yeah. Great. Be the best one-person office there is. Be the best. And if I can help you, let me know. And but it's funny because when we were in Palm Springs for our most recent conference, I had one agent office come up to me and says, well, I'm happy, but I work smarter than you do. And I'm like, great, good for you. I mean, was that an insult? Was you trying to get a rise out of me? You're probably a lot better off if you'd said, hey, congratulations, or hey, don't insult me.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Because there's opportunities that, like I said, I've got another SPI agent that's worked out a deal with me, and he's handling some of my business that I simply can't handle. I felt like saying, dude, could have been you.
Yeah.
I guess not. I guess not now.
Yeah. It's one of those things like with relationships in everything where it's like, man, and then another thing too, I always look at it, no matter what, I think people don't understand that one conversation can literally change everything in your life, right? Like if I look back at, everything in business, it's like taking that phone call, taking that risk, paying your way to go to something, and then what that leads to, right? Like in just like conversations matter, right? And I think people overlook humility and in a certain way where it's like, man, you can be the most confident person in the world and be the most humble person in the world as well. Because like, again, I know a lot about this industry, but like, I don't know everything, right? Like I when I talk to people, I'm asking questions, like I'm a sponge, like, how do I get better? That is my thing, right? Like I say at the beginning of every single show, Steve, I'm trying to talk to people who've done what I'm looking to do, right? And I'm trying to put those stories out there so people can hear this and be like, hey, Steve's been doing this job for a long time. He probably knows a thing or two. I don't know that. Maybe I should reach out and talk to Steve. Maybe I should like have these conversations because, one conversation, you are truly, and I say this with building a book of business, you are one conversation away from changing your life, and you don't even know it more times than not.
You don't. And believe me, we're blessed. I mean, we're blessed. And we don't walk into a room thinking, look here we are. We don't. We walk into a room saying, hey, there's Chris Jolly. He's my buddy. What can I learn from you, Chris? Mm. What is it that you have to teach me? And, I look at other agents that are bigger than me and I'm like, what can I learn from them? What can I learn from all these people that I can apply back to our business? Because we don't know everything. We're just, it's been a lot of luck and it's been more sweat equity and hard work than anything else. But, there is luck, a lot of luck involved in it, but it's positioning yourself at the right time to take advantage of that luck and then being humble about it. We're not all that in a bag of chips. We know that. We're willing to work hard and we're willing to work at night and we're willing to answer phone calls we're going on vacation tomorrow, Chris. And our schedule is, we're going to be out in Mountain Time, which we're on Eastern Time, but we're going to get up every single morning and go to work at 5 a.m. because it'll be 7 o'clock Eastern Time. And we'll work for several hours and then we'll go and enjoy our vacation day because that's what we do. I'm not going to to be on vacation and set my business adrift and put it on the shoulders of all my employees or my children.
Yep.
And I mean, I got to show up to the game too every single day, and we're willing to do that. And, you know, Mary and I, we do temper a lot of our conversations. We will have times, okay, we're going to talk about business for a little bit, but then it's like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
You got to have a cutoff point. There it is. We reached it. But yeah, there's a certain level of humility, and I'm pleased with where we're at. I always want to be more. I always hope to accomplish more. And you know, we're looking, like I said, we're looking to bring someone's into our business, someone else, because we're needing to grow again. And we are very careful about that, because we do realize that working, you know, we are streamlined, high speed and streamlined. So when we bring someone in, we don't bring them in if we don't think it can be life altering for them. And that's the kind of people that we're looking for, and we're looking for hard workers, people that'll follow the path that we've laid down. Not that we know everything, but this is what's worked for us. But if someone else can show us or teach us a different way or a better way, we're listening. I don't know everything. You know, I learn from you, Chris. There's one office or one agent offices. I learn from them because they know something I don't know. You know, they're able to have a great living and make a great life with only one agent. Okay, well, how do we do that? How do you do this without a big team around you like I have? I want to learn about that, because if I can take something from them and use it myself and teach everybody around me to use that same method or that same principle, well, that's just going to improve mine and everybody else's life. And, you know, I worked with an old gentleman when I was a kid, and he told me, he said, "Stevie boy, the day you know everything there is to know about what you're doing is the day you're too dangerous to work with." I'm like, yeah, that's pretty in depth there. And I always say, if you find yourself the smartest person in the room, find a new room.
That right there is probably the most powerful piece of advice that most people often overlook. If you're not talking to people who are achieving more than you to push you to higher heights, you know, and then again, like, you got to surround yourself, and you might not even know that person, right? Like, you might not even have anybody out there in your life that you can associate with. Pick up books, pick up podcasts, start listening to like that, build your own tribe that way.
Right.
And it's amazing what information that's out there, right? Because it's like, again, you get stuck in your own way of doing things, and you don't necessarily think outside the box. And again, back to being a little bit humble about like, hey, I'm struggling here. What can I do differently? Goes a long way. And most people, I think another thing too that I've realized, more people are willing to help you if you're willing to ask. And I don't know if enough people actually do that, right? Because again, they want to posture, they want to act like they're the smartest person. I will be the first one to wave the white flag and be like, hey, I'm struggling here. What am I doing wrong?
Chris, I'm the one that goes on the podcasts. Okay. I've done several. This is a second or third one with you. You know, I'm the guy that gets to do those things. But let me tell you something. I am nothing without the people that are around me. My wife, my children, the kid that we call my nephew that works for us. I'm nothing without these people. They're the ones that keep it going every day. You know, I'm more admin, I'm more customer, I'm more problem solving. They're the ones that are in tune with the rates. They're the ones that are trust me, they make me look good. I am absolutely nothing without those people, and especially without Mary. I mean, I'd be in a truck right now driving if it wasn't for Mary. And I do know that, and I'm very blessed by all of it. But you know what? I feel that same way about Mike Micklick. I feel that same way about Anita and James Lemon and Joe Chandler, who I still talk to. You know, Joe is retired and good for him, but he and Trish are super important to me and my family, and I still reach out to him for advice and guidance and all these people. And you know what? Everybody that I've named except for Joe is younger than me, including yourself. I'm nothing without these people. And I do realize that I am absolutely not full of myself. I know that we would not be anywhere without the people that are around us. We would be the kitchen table brokers. And again, that's fine. It's just not what we want.
No, I love it. Steve, thank you so much for your time. We went way longer than we normally do, but this is just what happens No, this is great. I could keep going with you, man, but it's like you brought up so much value here today. And I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Maybe next time we'll do like a 5-part series and maybe I can come to Arizona and we'll sit and drink beer and just talk. We could do that.
We should. We'll do that. Either that or we'll be out in Florida and we'll make it happen. All right.
You can come to Florida, bring your golf clubs.
All righty. Well, hey, Steve, thank you so much for your time. That is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang. Window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back. Hey, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast. Hey, hey.